Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 3-day live series that I'll be hosting this week called From Survival Mode to Self-Trust for Black women who are healing our nervous systems. We are in very chaotic, trying, draining times. And so a lot of us are finding ourselves in survival mode. And so over the next 3 days, I'll be going live um, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week at 11 a.m. Eastern to talk about a different topic, as a lot of us are focused on how to stay rooted in truth, right? In healing while we're seeing everything going on around us that is out of our control. A lot of it is. But one thing we do have sovereignty over is our internal well being, our ability to tap into our power, right? Despite what is going on externally, there are so many forces at play trying to convince us that we don't have power, right? Trying to purposely and intentionally dysregulate our nervous systems as a form of control. So that is very real. And so if you're experiencing that, know that you're not alone. That is the purpose of this series this week. Again, I'll be going live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week at 11 a.m. Eastern to cover a different topic related to moving from survival mode to self-trust. So if you have been feeling tense, overwhelmed, unable to fully exhale, know that you're not alone. And I do want to introduce myself. So I am Marissa Price. I am a healing practitioner helping sensitive, introverted, and or high achieving Black women heal from traumatic experiences and really reclaim our sovereignty and authenticity, lean into our power. I think, again, so many of us, if you are someone who is sensitive, who feels very deeply, there's no way that you can really like cut yourself off from what we're experiencing. And so it's probably affecting you pretty deeply. And so that is the purpose of the series this week. I know that I have had to place limits on media consumption because it's so much chaos happening right now. And again, it's intentional. It's an intentional way to try to harvest our energy, our very sacred, precious energy. And so the more that you can come back into staying rooted in who you are, right, in these tools that I'll be sharing throughout this week to help regulate your nervous system despite what's happening externally, that is power, right? You're taking your power back every time that you do that. So know that your body has been protecting you in the chaos of survival mode. So this week, we're going to tap into the power we have to protect our well-being during these chaotic times. And this is 3 days of live conversations, community healing on nervous system healing, right? Which again, I have to say, like being in the mental health space as a social worker, nervous system healing, right? When it comes to Black people, we have been traditionally left out of these things. And I've talked about before on my channel, right? The level of dehumanization that occurs, the parts of our brain, right? Hoping to be able to educate, to bring on people, to share more information about what's happening in our bodies, in our nervous systems, as we lean into our humanity and resist, right? This constant messaging that's trying to dehumanize us, telling us that we're just here to labor for other people, right? We're here to serve other people's purpose. We're here to sacrifice our well-being, our mental health in the service of other people, right? So many of us are rejecting that, right? You can't tell us that these human bodies that we're in, with all these dreams, aspirations we have, skills, something I talk about on Black Women Freelancers, my second channel, right? You can't tell us that all of these were placed in us just for us to be here to work ourselves to the bone, to labor for other people, and then to be discarded. We no longer have a use, right? And so many of us are pushing back against that very oppressive messaging. And so that's kind of the purpose of this series this week, moving from survival mode to self-trust. So yeah, let's get into it. If you're here live, let us know so we can say hello, as this is a community healing space. If you're watching the replay, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're interested in content like this in the future. Like this video so that the algorithm shares it with others who are interested in it. And comment if anything resonates. Let me look at the comments real quick. Hello, welcome. Okay. So day one, right, naming survival mode and why it's not your fault. It's very important. So let's get into what survival mode is. And before we do that, I think it's important to just take a deep breath here. So wherever you are, kind of becoming aware of how your breath is before you take a deep breath so that you can have the information before and after. That's so important when you're incorporating practices, wellness practices into your life, to have the before information and then the after information so that you know which direction to go in the future, right? So just take notice of how you're feeling right now, just with your normal breath pattern. And then here, taking a deep breath in, holding at the top, and then releasing. And taking one more deep breath in here, holding at the top, and then releasing. And then notice how you feel before and after. Hey, free flowing soul, good morning. Thank you for joining. And again, it's very important to notice before and after. When we are in survival mode, as these systems love us to be in, this is very intentional, right? We don't always have the time, the space to check in with our bodies. How are we feeling? How are we breathing at all, right? Because that's one of the things that I have had to learn, to breathe deeply. So many of us are shallowly breathing. We're not having the proper oxygen levels that our bodies need to function at the full level, right? That we're created to function at. And so the more that you can invite in that oxygen, despite the environment that's telling you to breathe shallowly, to continue to push your body, you are resisting this messaging, right? That does not want you to be well, that does not really care about you, that doesn't even see you as fully human. I mean, to be honest. And so you are proving to yourself, you're reflecting back to yourself, I need breath. My life is worth preserving. When you take the time to breathe, to check in with your body, to see how you're feeling, right? So this is a space for Black women to breathe, reflect, and feel seen in the chaotic environment that we find ourselves in. Now, I also want to say there's no need to perform wellness here, right? Showing up exactly as we are is so important. And so we're going to understand some of the survival patterns we've been living in, and also meeting ourselves with compassion. As I shared, these systems want us in survival mode, right? So there is no blame. That's the purpose of this video too. Like, it's not your fault. There is no personal blame for this. We're all trying to survive these systems that we did not create, right? And so we're trying to navigate, we're trying to do the best that we can while breathing, while trying to center our wellness. And it's not always an easy task, but I'm hoping to share just like bite-sized information that you can incorporate into your wellness routine throughout the day. Okay, so survival mode is really your body's way of staying alert to danger, real or perceived, so you can stay safe, right? Understanding it's not a weakness. It is your nervous system doing its job. And again, as we think about the time before something like colonization, right? Our nervous systems were never built to function in this type of world that we find ourselves living in, where it's go, 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 right? 24/7. Really no time for sleep, for rest, for downtime, for grieving. I know someone made a comment on one of my past videos about grieving a loss, right? And only being given a day or two, right? To grieve a really deep loss. So just understanding that we were never meant to function this way, right? This is a very inhuman way of living that we find ourselves in, which is why it feels so wrong, which is why our nervous systems are like, I can't keep going at this pace, right? Because we were not created to go at this pace. We're in these systems that are like forcing us so often, pressuring us to work against our body's natural rhythms. And so, of course, that's going to result in illness in the body. Hey, Evelyn Bourne, thank you so much for joining. Good morning. Right, so just to understand that. So this can look like being in survival mode, always feeling on, scanning the room, right? Hypervigilance, overcommitting or overworking, sometimes as a way of filling some of the gaps in our self-worth. And I have a program coming out later this year, self-worth recovery, because it's so important. This society will literally create gaps, holes in our self-worth on purpose. This is very intentional. And then sell us overworking, right? Sell us these external forms of validation. And it never really meets the mark, right? It never really truly fills us up because it's an internal process that we have to go through, that we should never have to go through to repair the holes in our self-worth that this society has created. It can look like emotional numbness, feeling exhausted or irritable. I have a video on Black girl depression. One of the signs that may present irritability, right? If you're experiencing something like depression. So please check out that video if you're interested in that on my YouTube channel. Physical signs like tension in the jaw, shoulders, or chest, right? So this can be a result of decades of feeling unsafe and worrying about the safety of others around us too. I think I know the Western way of viewing the world is very individual, right? But we're often concerned about not just our safety, right? But our family's safety, our community's safety. We see people being harmed. I did a blog post on vicarious trauma, and I hope to talk more about that in the future. That's very real. When we see other people being harmed, like we're affected by that too. It's not just an individual way of doing life, which again, we were never meant to do, which is why it feels so odd that I'm just supposed to be worried about myself, right? If I'm good, then no, right? If my family's suffering, if my community's suffering, that's going to impact me too. And so understanding that. But yes. So understanding why it's not your fault. So some of the sources of survival mode: generational trauma, systemic racism, sexism, economic instability, chronic microaggressions that we experience in the workplace day in and day out, right? Again, trying to create these holes in our self-worth, trying to make us feel like we don't belong, like something is wrong with us, right? When the whole time it's the system. And I just launched a newsletter on LinkedIn called Black Women Lead. And the first edition was, it's not you, it's the system, right? So even understanding that these things that we're experiencing, if you feel like it's you, that's the importance of community so we can share with each other. I actually feel that way too, right? I'm actually recognizing this too. So many of us are, but they want us disconnected from each other so that we're not able to connect the dots between our experiences and our realizations. And so that's important to recognize too. Right? So if your shoulders are up by your ears, if you're feeling extremely tense, if your jaw is tight, if you haven't felt a deep, full breath in months, maybe years, know that there is nothing wrong with you, right? Again, your body is trying to protect you as it knows how within these systems that were never created for us to thrive. But also there are points where we can intervene, which is the purpose of this series, right? So all is not lost. Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yes. Divide to conquer. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Whew. And we see that on full display, intensifying. Just over the course of this year, we see how intense it is getting, right? To create those divisions so that we don't see the connections between the things that we're realizing. And I don't know if y'all have felt it, so let me know, but there's a shift in energy, right? In awakening and awareness. as we see systems crumble around us, right? And so being able to recognize that, and how can that lead you to a deeper understanding of what we live in, and also rejecting self-blame, shame, right? Again, leaning into the truth that it's not your fault. So starting to loosen the grip. So the first step to start to loosen the grip on survival mode can be awareness without judgment, right? So just becoming aware of, again, as we talked about already, the systems that we live in, the ways that our bodies are responding, the fact that we were never meant to live like this ever, that there was a time before this. That's so important to recognize, because it can feel like this is all there ever was, right? But it's important to realize, no, there's actually thousands of years of ways that people lived, right? In alignment with the natural cycles of nature, right? Allowing ourselves time to grieve, to be in community instead of the individual ways that we're taught within the Western world. And so just recognizing that, starting to loosen the grip on survival mode in the places that you're able to, the ways that you're able to intervene through stuff like breath work, taking a few deep breaths, telling yourself that you're not to blame. Body scans can be helpful as well. So noticing the places in your body where it feels tight, tense, where you're bracing for impact. Placing a hand on that area can be helpful. Breathing into it and then saying to yourself, thank you, body, for protecting me, right? Because our bodies love us that much. Within these environments that we find ourselves in that are highly toxic, traumatic, our bodies are going into this response to try to protect us, to try to preserve our lives. And so that's important to recognize. That is survival mode. Our body's response to trauma and the environments that we live in, right? The constant pace that we're expected to operate at, that is traumatic. And so even recognizing that can be helpful. Okay, so I think that is all I want to share today. This is just a mini series over the next 3 days. So I'll be live tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, and then Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. I do have a live tonight. Yes, there's a petition, actually. Let me pull up the details of that. There is a petition I will be interviewing. Yes, tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. I had to get the time. Yes, Zara Northover. I'll be interviewing her on her fight for justice against workplace retaliation on my YouTube channel and on LinkedIn. And her petition is linked in the description section of, I think, both videos, YouTube and LinkedIn, if you'd like to join us tonight. Trying to think of anything else. I do want to share with y'all, if you would like to join us, me and a guest facilitator in week 3, Danny Blanche, who co-facilitated the breathwork circle I did this past Sunday. Regulate to Reclaim is open for enrollment, and I do want to share my screen here. Oh, it works. Okay, there we go. Yes, let me put the link in the chat too real quick. I have so many tabs open. Let me see. There we go. Oh, thank you so much for this. I appreciate this. Evelyn says, thank you for sharing your light here. Thank you. Received. Thank you so much for this. Dr. Krista Pedro, good morning. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. yes, if you are interested in a 4-week journey to begin to heal your nervous system, if you are someone who experiences a sense of overwhelm, especially for sensitive people like myself, right? It was constantly taking in so much information from my environment all the time, just understanding ways that I can intervene, as we talked about today, to regulate your nervous system. Despite what is happening externally, leaning into your power that you have within you, the power that all of our bodies have that we come equipped with to self heal, right? Tapping into the power to do that. If you're interested in that, we start Sunday, August 17th, and the link to register is in the chat and in the description section. But yes, and I'll just go through like the weekly outline. So, week one, meeting your nervous system with compassion. Week two, creating micro moments of safety. Week three, guest facilitator Daddy Blanche will be joining us, who is a fellow social worker, trauma informed social worker, on reparenting the inner child. And then week four, regulating to reclaim your life, right? So, integrating what we learned over the 3 weeks, and making a plan to go forward after the program ends. So, I'm really excited about this because this has been a dream, right? As a trauma informed social worker who has pivoted from a highly toxic oof, job environment, and I've shared my journey on my YouTube channel. This is a dream, right? To be able to facilitate nervous system healing workshops, safe places, particularly for sensitive Black women as we feel so deeply. We take in so much from our environments, especially during these times we find ourselves in, knowing that we have the power to tap into the ability to regulate, right? And no one can touch that. No one can touch that. Um, and so often we're not taught that our bodies come equipped with ways to regulate. We're taught that we have to seek these things externally from other people to provide us with, right? When we'll really the process of healing, as I work with my clients on, is to open up the understanding that you already have, the ability of your body to heal. As we see our bodies, like physically, this may be helpful. Healing wounds, like physical wounds, we see the healing process take place. It's the same way with our spirits, right? Mentally, our brains have all these areas to tap into. But the issue, as I've shared before, is we have been dehumanized, right? And so the parts of our human brains that we should be learning about, right? The ways that our nervous systems can operate to heal, to shield us from the impacts of things like oppression. Of course, we're not taught. Of course, this information is kept from us. And so this is really about self-sovereignty, right? Healing, being in a safe place with other people who feel deeply, knowing that you don't have to come on camera, right? If you're not feeling it, you can type in the chat, and just learning these tools in different ways to help regulate yourself throughout the chaotic times that we're experiencing at the moment. So if you would like to join us, Regulate to Reclaim starts this Sunday, actually 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, and all the sessions will be recorded if you can't attend live. Sliding scale pricing is available starting at $200. And I'm trying to think of what else I want to share. Each circle is 90 minutes, right, of live healing. I present each time during the live healing circles. There's also a somatic practice that I'll be sharing before each healing circle that is recorded, as well as a one-page integration guide to help you implement the things that we talked about during the week. All sessions are recorded, so you'll have access to replays. There's a private WhatsApp group for connection support. Yeah, here's my bio. And this is all on the landing page that I linked in the chat and in the description section if you'd like to check it out for yourself. But yeah, just knowing that your sensitivity is your strength. So often, again, in the society, we are taught that it's a flaw, that we have to suppress how we feel, right? Why are you getting upset about what you see happening? The it's something I've been realizing, right? The actual problem is not getting upset about seeing people being harmed. Is being able to cut yourself off from the emotional impact that that has, because we're supposed to be affected when other people are harmed. And so things are very kind of upside down. And so this is a place for us to really be able to tap into the power that we have to feel, learn how to regulate our emotions, also guard against things like energy vampires, right? Energy harvesting is very real. People seeing that we feel deeply and trying to take advantage of that for their own nefarious purposes. Um, and so being able to protect yourself as a feeling person, as a sensitive person, is very important. Again, practical tools to help you regulate your nervous system, reduce stress, understanding how urgency, overthinking, and shutdown aren't flaws, as we talked about today. They're your body's survival responses. But because we have been dehumanized, we have been left out so often of mental health conversations. This information has not been shared. This has been withheld from us. And so, even understanding that we have a nervous system is huge, right? How it functions, how we can tap into its power to help self regulate, guard our peace during these times is so very important. Um, and that's why I'm so proud of this program. Again, coming up Sunday, our first session this Sunday, starting at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. All sessions will be recorded. If you would like to attend and register, the link is in the description. And so let me stop sharing my screen. Okay. Oh, get my background. Hold on 1 second. There we go. Okay. Yes. 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 Energy vampires love sensitive people and empaths. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for this, Evelyn. Yes, it is true. Yep. And so if you have found yourself in a situation as a sensitive person where someone has viewed your ability to feel as a weakness or a place where they can get in and try to extract some power, know that you're not alone. So many of us have experienced this, and have healed, right? So that's not the end of your journey. That's not the end of your story. Have healed through that process and then learn ways to create that net, create that shield. Because your energy is so powerful, people will try to extract it. People will try to take it, but you also have the power to safeguard it, to shield it, particularly during these times that we live in. It's so essential. Um, so I think that is it for day one of moving from survival mode to self-trust. I'll be back with a different topic tomorrow on YouTube and LinkedIn at the same time, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. And so please join us for that if you're interested in enrolling in Regulate to Reclaim, my 4-week healing program for nervous system healing, regulation for sensitive Black women that is open for enrollment. Sliding scale pricing starting at $200. And so please use the link in the description to register or in the chat, regulate to reclaim.card with 2Rs.co. And I think that's it for today. Thank y'all so much for joining me if you're here live. If you're watching the replay, thank you so much for joining as well. Please subscribe, like, comment all the YouTube terms. And until next time, y'all, I appreciate y'all being here. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.